Good afternoon. Today is the 3rd of March, and I want to pick up on a topic that I made a video about exactly a year ago, which is the introduction of E10 fuel and what it means for you. At that time, we made a video in my 1991 Rover 216 SLI automatic with a sunroof, and now we're making the video in another Rover with a sunroof. This is the 2003 Rover 45 2-litre V6 Connoisseur. And both those cars are affected by the introduction of E10 Petrol, which has now been confirmed for September 2021. Let's sort of go over the basics again and update the content of that previous video. For some time now, E5 Petrol has been sold in this country. We're used to it, and actually it seems to work out fine for most cars. There are some that need super unleaded. Mr. Coleman's 1985 Alfa Romeo 90, for example, is a car that doesn't run very well on E5. It uses really super unleaded. I think even when it was new, it was advised to use 4-star petrol, which would have been the premium grade available at the time. Now, the issue is that E10 fuel, which is a 10% bioethanol, and that's been on sale on the continent now for quite some time. We are, in some ways, catching up with the continental European countries in this regard, will be introduced and legal to sell in this country in September 2021. Now, it's not going to mean that E5 petrol, which contains 5% bioethanol, will completely disappear. Super unleaded petrol, that's things like 97, 98, 99 octane fuel, will remain on sale, and that's advised for older cars in some regards anyway. It will help out with the power because it has a higher RON figure. In America, they sell petrol with under 90 RON, whereas the lowest octane number that we sell over here is 95. So immediately we've got slightly better petrol than the United States and America on the whole. Not all the time, but generally we've got slightly better petrol in that respect. An electronic management system in it, the engine, has to ascertain all sorts of different things. There's obviously one in this car. Has to ascertain what the quality of the fuel is, what the temperature is, what your atmospheric pressure is, all kinds of different variables that it sorts out for you, rather than just using a carburetor and a manual choke, which is what actually Mr. Coleman Road Mechanics cars has. It's a 1982 Ford Granada 2.8 gear X estate. Some of you would assume a number channel. I queried this with Mr. Coleman, saying, I've been getting some comments on this old video that I made about E10 petrol, and would you ever use that in your Granada? And he said, well, actually, I would. I would have no problem using that E10 petrol in my Granada. And I couldn't believe this. I mean, a lot of people have been saying to me they got things like MGBs or older cars. And if you look, for example, on the government website for E10 fuel compatibility, it will tell you that there is no information whatsoever on MG Rover products, or even before that, Rover Group and, British Leyland and all this sort of thing, whatever the company was called that day of the week. There's no information about cars there before 2005. In fact, there's no information at all about MG Motor UK cars, which are dated about 2011 onwards. It doesn't even say anything. Now, this isn't really a problem for the new cars, because every single car sold in the European Union, obviously we're now out of it, but we were in it for a number of years. Every single car sold on that market since early 2011, and probably a lot before that, had to be compatible with E10 fuel. They had to be. The thumbnail you would have seen in the video is of my 2019 Sony Tivoli. It's just there, and that actually has a compatibility sticker for E10. It says that is what you should put in. And if you're wondering what that other word is below gasoline, that's just the Russian for petrol, which is benzene. I don't know why that they think that the main markets in this in this part of the world are Russia and United Kingdom / America, because that's gasoline, not petrol. But anyway, that's beside the by. So if your car is from 2010 or later, you shouldn't really have a problem. in fact, I've looked at this compatibility chart, and there are very few cars, I would say, that are sort of from the 2000s that are going to be a problem. In fact, I don't think this Rover is going to be a problem. I don't think it will be at all. I just think that they can't be bothered to sort of talk to whoever the experts are, who wouldn't be Rover themselves if they've disappeared, to ascertain whether the range would accept it or not. What you can do, if you have a Honda engine Rover, and they were made right up to about 1999 in some cases, is look at the Honda information. Honda say that any car with their programmable injection system, PGMFI, will actually run okay on E10. So that included my old 1991 Rover 200 SLR automatic that I talked about in the previous video. That would have been fine because that uses the same system, the same engine as would have been in the contemporary Honda Civic. But even the carburetor cars, and there are a lot of carburetor cars still out there, particularly things like older Minis and Allegros and Ford Granadas, Ford Capris, Escorts, loads of cars. If you have a carburetor engine car, you're probably going to be okay, because the things that get eaten away are the sort of rubber components, and they actually tend to just deteriorate over time. And the E10 Petrol would accelerate, the effects of the rubber fuel lines wearing a little bit, not massively, but as long as your engine's in reasonable condition, and particularly the carburetor's in good condition, then that would be fine. If it needs a rebuild anyway, you'd probably suggest to do that. But E10 Petrol might actually give you more power because it's partly ethanol. Ethanol is used as a racing fuel, and so you might get a bit more power. You probably won't get more economy necessarily. And I think the environmental claims of the government saying that we all need to use this increased bioethanol fuel in our cars to help save the environment, I think those claims are a bit dubious. And they've been talking about, we've just read a government article talking about the fact that it would increase jobs, having bioethanol fuel. And I'm not sure this is a great idea, really, to sort of market it in this way. One thing that is clear, E10 Petrol is coming in from September 2021 in this country. If fuel stations decide to take it on, they will remove the E10 pumps for unleaded. The government assures people, and I've seen this several times, this is also the case in the last video that I made, that they will continue to sell super unleaded fuel, E5 super unleaded, which is the equivalent of old 4-star, for the foreseeable future, for as long as it's necessary, which could be forever. Who knows? There's so many petrol and diesel cars still actually on the second-hand market or around that they still need to sell petrol and diesel. Obviously, if you have got a car for bad light fuel, this is irrelevant to you anyway. But there's perhaps 700,000 cars with this effect, allegedly. The information on the government website's not great. I checked a compatibility chart with Seat. There are only like 4 or 5 cars which weren't compatible. I looked at Volkswagen, it's a similar thing. And that's only because of one particular engine, which was made in the mid-2000s. It's the TFSI engine, but apparently doesn't run on E10. It says everything else is fine. So I think most people are probably going to be okay, particularly if you are an enthusiast. And, the cars that have carburetors these days are generally owned by enthusiasts who want to keep them in good condition. And obviously, you've got to change your fuel lines periodically anyway if they're rubber fuel lines. And there might be some more wear on certain components, perhaps ones with an alloy. But if you've got a cast iron engine, which I know some cars have, then I don't see it being a huge issue. I haven't got sort of concrete evidence to prove this, and the only way we're going to be able to do this for the viewers is actually running Mr. Coleman's Granada. Rather on super unleaded, run it on E10 and see what happens. And that's exactly what we're going to do later this year. Because the E10 petrol hasn't come into the petrol station yet, we can't do it at the moment. But we will do that. We will run Mr. Coleman's car on super unleaded, empty the tank, because he can do that, and fill it with E10 and see what the difference is. We can go and do some acceleration tests, or whatever tests that you think would be appropriate, obviously, within the speed limits and things. But that's what he's going to do. He's going to take this, wonderful old classic that's 39 years old and run it on E10. So perhaps you shouldn't worry too much after all. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for that, which will come in about 6 months. Like this video, leave a comment below, switch on the notification bell, of course. Social media links are down below. And I've got a couple of articles here, one from the government, which I'm not sure is the most helpful article, and one from Auto Express that explains the situation a little bit better. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching.